As a soul-crushed, washed Escape from Tarkov veteran with around 3,000 hours and a bunch of Kappa containers, I recently started playing The Cycle Frontier, a free-to-play sci-fi extraction shooter that released this summer and is currently in its first official season. In this video, I'll explain what this game is all about and what I do and don't like about it, while drawing many comparisons to Escape from Tarkov. In the process, I'll kind of review the game and hopefully give you plenty of information to decide whether or not you want to jump into the Cycle's next season, which begins on September 28th. So what is the Cycle Frontier? To put it simply, it's a free-to-play PvPvE extraction shooter, much like Escape from Tarkov, but significantly more forgiving for new players. While both games have the high suspense, high stakes tension of potentially losing all your loot in an instant that will leave you as confused as a fart in a fan factory, there's no doubt that the Cycle is easier to get into right off the bat. If Escape from Tarkov could be described as a wrecking ball made of knives constantly crashing into your genitals, then the Cycle would be more like a tennis ball hitting you below the belt. That said, the primary gameplay loop of the Cycle is to epically dropship onto a persistent alien world full of flesh-hungering beasts and other players, called prospectors, who might be friendly or bloodthirsty liars. Gather precious loot, rack up kills, and complete objectives for various faction vendors. Once you feel like you've completed your fill of tasks while on the planet, you'll call in an evacuation ship at a designated area shown on your map and fly back to the safety of the social hub. As you rinse and repeat this process, you will upgrade your den, aka the Hideout if you're familiar with Tarkov, level up your faction vendors, and acquire crafting materials, all of which will give you access to better and better gear. Overall, I found the gameplay loop to be quite satisfying and dynamic, as you can also level up vendors by selling them items rather than just questing. This gives players an extra degree of freedom to decide how they want to approach the game. I will mention here, however, that the Cycle does need to work on mid-game progression. Right now, it feels like it takes quite a while before you start really unlocking the juicy guns. The devs have mentioned that they are aware of this and working on it. The quests in the Cycle are fairly basic at the moment, usually involving collecting X number of a certain item, exploring areas of the map, killing players and mobs, and so on. While they aren't groundbreaking, they're still engaging and will definitely give you a feel for the maps and test and refine your combat skills. And yes, you can drop quest items for your friends, which you can no longer do in Tarkov. This adds to the social feel and teamwork element of the game, which I find really nice. And this brings us to the social hub, where you'll spend your time between raids cracking a cold one and trading war stories with other prospectors. Okay, you can't actually do this at the moment, but I wish you could. Voice chat appears to be disabled in the social hub, and there aren't a lot of ways to interact with other players at the moment. This is something I really hope they expand on in the future, though. What you will do at the social hub is pick up quests and jobs from different factions, buy and sell items, upgrade your den, and craft better gear. I'll mention here that the Hideout/den and Escape from Tarkov, or the rat-infested moldy pit that you live in and slowly upgrade to a bachelor pad, is much more in-depth than the one in the Cycle. Both give you options to upgrade stash size, crafting modules, passive income generation, and so on, but the Cycle does it in a much more straightforward kind of way. And that kind of seems to be the general story with the Cycle versus Tarkov. One is a simplified version of the other. For example, all of the loot in the Cycle is color-coded, white at the bottom of the spectrum, and purple and red, or exotic, being at the top. To understand all the loot in Escape from Tarkov, you damn near need a direct Neuralink to the Wikipedia. While we're comparing the Cycle to Tarkov, let's talk about how you actually load into a match. In the Cycle, this process is beautifully seamless. Once you and your team, if you choose to play with a group, all hit the ready up button, you immediately drop into one of two current maps, with a third on the way with the new upcoming season. There are no wait times, no 10-minute queues that get bugged leading to another 10-minute queue like Tarkov. Also, I should mention there is an in-game map in the Cycle. You press M and magically it's just there. It shows you where you are, where your teammates are, major points of interest, and exactly where you need to go to extract. Meanwhile, Tarkov just pulls back the wrecking ball of knives and smiles menacingly. But seriously, as you may or may not know, there aren't in-game maps in Tarkov, so this immediately makes the Cycle a lot more new player friendly. The next thing worth mentioning is the graphical style, atmosphere, and audio in the Cycle. The game is beautiful, colorful, and sci-fi-y. When you first smash down onto a planet, you almost feel like you're in an MMO where you want to hang out, mine minerals, and suddenly get sniped in the face by a no-life Timmy hunter. The cycle makes things like fog, rain, and lightning storms immersive and suspenseful, but somehow less claustrophobically, terrifyingly, crushingly so than Tarkov. And then there's the audio. If you've ever played an extraction shooter before, you know just how important audio is not only for immersion, but to pinpoint enemies and build a picture of your surroundings. The cycle does a great job with audio cues on both the atmospheric side and the gameplay side. If someone is creeping up to you and walks over some pebbles or broken glass, you'll hear it clearly. Some would say even too clearly. Or when a meteor shower rains down from above and begins to slam fragments down onto the planet's surface, or an evac ship comes down to pick up another prospector, you'll definitely know it and feel immersed. It's so detailed that you even make more sound, kind of like jangling keys, the more loot you have on you, which is pretty dang cool. Next, let's talk about the movement style and gunplay in the cycle. The game is definitely faster paced than Tarkov. You can slide jump, you can vault up on walls and over rocks to get to a strategic position, you can jump strafe and blast off your cracked shotgun flicks while flying through the air. The movement might not be quite as free as, say, Apex Legends, but there's a nice speed and fluidity to it. Think of this as the arcade-style extraction shooter to Tarkov's more plodding military sim style. Similar to Tarkov, the cycle has a stamina bar that you'll need to keep an eye on. If you don't manage your stamina correctly, you'll be caught slowly walking away from 4 aliens biting you in the hindshank while a player is slowly lining up the perfect headshot on you. As far as guns and gunplay, the cycle's weapons are fun and rewarding to use. The headshot sound is crunchy and satisfying, and the guns are easy to modify. While in Tarkov, you could spend at least 30 minutes kitting out a gun with 20 or more different parts, the cycle takes a simplified approach, with guns having about 6 attachment slots. Attachments themselves come in your garden variety rarity structure of white, green, blue, purple, and so on. And while I found the gunplay in the cycle really satisfying, I do wish there were just more guns in general, especially in the mid-game, and more high-end attachments like suppressors you could acquire earlier. The devs recently said they're working on adding more guns, so we'll have to keep an eye on how quickly they get added and any balance issues that come up. Similar to Tarkov, the cycle supplies your prospector with a safe container, usually referred to as a butthole or prison pocket for those in the know. The safe pocket allows you to hide away a limited amount of loot that you get to keep even if you die. Say, for example, you load into a match and immediately find a quest item you need, you can put it in your safe pocket and you'll keep it even if you die. However, there is a limit to the amount of weight you can put in your safe pocket, which is expandable through den upgrades at the social hub. From a PvP standpoint, both Tarkov and the cycle have very high highs and low lows. The cycle doesn't really have a great equalizer like the fabled Tarkov headshot though. For example, if you are running a very simple kit in Tarkov and land the perfect face shot on a fully geared no-life Uber Chad with 9,000 hours, you can score a big upgrade. In the cycle, gear differential, while not totally impossible to overcome, is pretty apparent. If you're in full white gear and come up against a guy with full purple armor and weapons, you're probably going to get melted. That said, there is some kind of hidden matchmaking system in the cycle, which attempts to match players of similar skill and progress together in the same raid. There are many theories on how the matchmaking is calculated, varying from how much valuable loot you typically extract with to whether you play with friends and so on, but the long and short is there is SBMM or skill-based matchmaking of some kind in this game. I assume the devs put this matchmaking into the game to even the playing field, so fully geared players aren't just pub stomping fresh nubiles all day. But it remains to be seen how it will evolve and work in practice. For now, I know that if you play in a group of 3, which is the max group size in the cycle, you will definitely come up against more geared players than if you play solo. If you go in solo as a new player, you'll mostly come up against other daisy-picking prospectors that soil their space pants when encountering another player while screaming, "I'm friendly! I'm just questing, man! Don't shoot!" Let me take a second to run through some of the systems that are important in the cycle. First, there is an insurance system. If you die and your gear is insured, you'll get compensation of some kind, regardless of what happens to the gear after you die. It's a solid, forgiving system. The cycle does not have a scav system like Tarkov, where you can acquire some free loot, but the cycle does not punish you for doing the fabled hatchet run or low gear run, so there's a lot of ways to make some easy money without taking much risk. Also, your melee weapon is pretty strong and often the weapon of choice when killing basic monsters to avoid being heard from across the map. The PvE in the cycle can be pretty tense as mobs sniff around, search you out, and have really solid AI routines. While I wish there were more types of enemy NPCs in the game, currently the ones that do exist pose enough of a threat to keep you on your toes and will have you making a lot of strategic pathing decisions to get to POIs or to engage in PvP without being swarmed by aliens right when you get into a fight with another player. There's also no flea market or player-to-player trading exchange in the cycle. You can go into raid and drop things for your friends, but there's no official way to sell things to other players. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the cycle is free to play and has the typical monetization strategies of a free-to-play title. There is a battle pass that awards cosmetics and some basic loot, and a cosmetic shop that uses the paid currency in the game called Aurum. One cool thing to note here is you can actually generate Aurum in your den over time, and even upgrade how fast you get Aurum, meaning as long as you're patient, you can buy cosmetics even if you never spend any real-world money. There are also some one-time purchasable support tiers in the game which will give you some gear such as backpacks and armor depending on what tier you buy. In that sense, there is a very low level of pay to win in the pricing structure, but it doesn't appear anything you get will give you a massive advantage. Think of Edge of Darkness in Tarkov, but probably a little less OP. Overall, I think there is a lot of game here for being free to play. One of our last topics is game wipes and seasons, which also ties into the end game. Most extraction shooters have a similar endgame at the moment, which is to use up all the gear you grinded for and unlocked and enjoy wanton slaughter and crazy PvP. The cycle does this in a unique way through in-game events such as massive player-summoned drills that are expensive to buy and come out of the sky, land on the planet, and start excavating rare and super valuable materials. Of course, these massive loud drills become highly contested, high-stakes PvP hotspots. Currently, almost all extraction shooters wipe the progress of players back to absolute zero every so often, thereby leveling the playing field and letting the grind begin anew. The cycle is no different and looks like it will have around a 4-month wipe cycle, which may be subject to change in the future. In many ways, wipes are very cool because you can try and do everything again in a more efficient way, but beware of these wipes as well. If you pour a few hundred hours into the grind, know everything is going to go bye-bye eventually. And if every wipe has you doing the same things over and over, it can get pretty stale after a while. Something else I should mention before concluding thoughts is the cheater problem. It is widely known that cheating has been running rampant in FPS games for quite a while now, and the cycle is no exception, and neither is Tarkov. Up until recently, the cycle was so full of cheaters that many people completely quit playing. However, the devs are taking this problem very seriously and implementing a lot of anti-cheat measures. For example, they have already introduced a system of complete compensation, where if you die to a player that is later banned for cheating, you get all the gear you had back and compensation in currency for the items you had in your inventory when you died. That said, since I started playing the cycle seriously a few weeks ago, I have run into some cheaters, but definitely not enough to make me consider ditching the game at all. And I think they will keep improving on this as well. To sum it up, I think the Cycle Frontier is an excellent way to dip your toe into extraction shooters if you are new to the genre, and a breath of fresh air to veterans of this game type. And the cherry on top is that it's totally free. I know this is not an ad or sponsored in any way. I fell in love with Tarkov about 2 years ago, and after my 4th wipe, I just got tired of doing the same quests over and over. So picking up the cycle and having a beautiful atmospheric sci-fi game with fast gameplay and many of the same high-stakes mechanics as Tarkov has been very appealing to me. If you've considered playing Tarkov but just felt like it was too hardcore and too big of a time sink, I'd definitely give the cycle a try. It will give you much of the same gameplay feel, but with a much lower barrier to entry. Also, this game just has a great foundation to build on. The first time you see a meteor shower or a player-summoned mining drill fall from the sky, you'll definitely be awestruck and see the potential for so many different types of gameplay loops and events the devs could add. The devs recently did a Season 2 showcase, which I'll link in the description below, and outlined a lot of great quality of life improvements and new things such as maps and weapons that are coming with the wipe on September 28th. As long as the developers listen to the community, have funding, which they should because there's a hell of a lot of FOMO in the cosmetic shop, and some visionary leadership, this game could be great to keep in the rotation for anyone who likes Tarkov, Hunt Showdown, Rust, and similar games. That being said, the cycle does have to tackle issues with matchmaking, mid-game progression, and cheaters. But I'm hopeful the devs are actively listening to player feedback and have a solid roadmap. Let's hope they can deliver consistently and that all cheaters have their fingers fall off. No, but seriously, I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown and comparison video. If you did, please like or dislike the video and subscribe, as we are almost at 1,000 subs on YouTube. Also, let me know in the comments below if you've played the cycle, what you think about it, and if you think it will thrive in the long term or not. If you want to check out our amazing community, there's a link to my Discord below, and I'm a partnered Twitch streamer live Monday through Friday, pouring out the syrup of friendship like a maple tree in Canada. Cheers, and may your heads always be elusive from enemy sniper fire.